I thought I knew every corner of my husband's life until I found the padlocked box buried beneath our garage. What I uncovered shattered my world, but what came next nearly ended it. Charlotte Hayes believed her life was a carefully balanced equation. As a 36-year-old accountant living in Portland, Oregon, she had settled into a stable routine with her husband, Mark. Their 10-year marriage had seen its share of minor storms, but nothing that had ever rocked the foundation. The small apartment they shared wasn't glamorous, but it was filled with warmth. They had a rhythm Saturday grocery runs, quiet Sunday mornings with coffee and the paper, midweek takeout when neither of them felt like cooking. Life was predictable, and Charlotte liked it that way. That morning was all about celebration. Her younger brother Dylan was getting married to Victoria, a bright, ambitious woman he'd adored for years. The wedding had been months in the making, and Charlotte had played a big part in planning it. She had coordinated with vendors, helped pick out floral arrangements, and even paid a portion of the deposit to help Dylan cover some of the costs. She felt proud, excited, and sentimental. The sun was already peeking through the sheer curtains. As Charlotte moved around the bedroom, curling her hair and laying out her dress, she checked her phone for updates from her parents, who were flying in from Seattle. Her mom had been obsessing over the pies she was baking for the reception, and Charlotte was sure there would be at least 3 messages about crust texture. She smiled as she opened the messages, but there was another notification, a single text from an unknown number. Don't go to your brother's wedding. Check your husband's garage. There was no name, no punctuation, no context. The message glared at her in cold, neutral gray. Charlotte stared at it for a long time. At first, she thought it might have been a wrong number, maybe a scam. She laughed uneasily and turned the phone off, determined not to let her mind wander. But her hands had started to shake. She tried calling Mark. He didn't answer. Earlier that morning, he had left in a rush, saying he had a last-minute client meeting and would join her at the venue later. The message echoed louder in her head. Check Mark's garage. Her stomach turned. The garage was a unit Mark had started renting about a year ago, part of an industrial lot a few blocks away. He had said it was for storing old files, tools, and maybe his father's old Lincoln, which he refused to sell. She'd never thought twice about it. Until now, she walked into the bedroom closet, opened the lid of the keepsake box, and found the spare key Mark had hidden. Silver, small, ordinary. She clutched it and felt her breath catch. Without telling her parents, she slipped out of the house. They were too busy arranging flowers and organizing dessert platters to notice. She told herself she was being paranoid, but her legs moved on their own. Each step toward the garage felt heavier than the last. When she arrived, the lot was quiet. Rows of gray metal doors stood like sentinels. She found Unit 42. Her hand trembled as she slid the key into the lock. The click of the latch echoed like thunder. She opened the door. It was dark, cold. The scent of oil and metal filled her nose. She flicked on her phone's flashlight and scanned the room. Mark's old Lincoln was there, coated in dust. Boxes lined the metal shelving units. Nothing seemed unusual at first, but something in the far corner caught her eye, a large cardboard box covered with a faded blanket. Her heart pounded harder. She stepped closer, slowly pulled the blanket back. Inside the box were items that didn't belong to her, a red leather purse, nude high heels, and a perfume bottle. Familiar. She had seen them before. On Victoria, she picked up the purse. It was designed Victoria's favorite brand. Charlotte had once gone shopping with her. She remembered the exact moment Victoria had squealed at finding it on sale. She opened the purse. Inside were Victoria's wallet, a small makeup bag, her keys, and something else, photographs. Dozens. She pulled them out and flipped through them, hands trembling. Mark and Victoria are on a beach laughing, embracing, kissing. Not 1 or 2 photos, dozens, each with different outfits, different settings. A pattern of intimacy and affection that told a clear story. In one photo, Victoria was lying on a beach towel as Mark leaned down to kiss her forehead. In another, they were at a cafe holding hands. There were selfies, vacation shots, and even pictures from what looked like hotel rooms. The implication was undeniable. At the bottom of the box was a folder. Inside were printed emails, handwritten, Notes and scraps of messages exchanged in secrecy. One read, "I'm marrying Dylan for stability. You and I. This is real. Just wait. Once the wedding is over, we'll find a way. You're my true home." Another, "Thank you for always waiting for me. She'll never know. He'll never know." Not yet. Charlotte collapsed onto a nearby stool. Her breath was shallow. Her heart shattered. Everything she believed about her marriage, about her brother's future, about trust was shattered. She wanted to scream, to throw the box into flames. But then she paused. If she erupted now, she would lose the only thing the betrayers didn't anticipate: her composure. She took photos of everything, every letter, every shoe, every photograph. She returned the contents exactly as she found them, wiped down anything she touched, locked the unit, and slipped the key back into her coat. She walked back to her car. Her face felt frozen. The sky was still bright. The world carried on, but her world had split open. She sat in the driver's seat and stared ahead. Then she called Dylan. He picked up, cheerful. "Hey, are you on your way? I need to talk to you. Alone." Before the ceremony, he hesitated. "Is something wrong? Please, trust me. Meet me at the back entrance. 30 minutes. He agreed. Charlotte arrived just before the meeting time. Dylan was pacing, looking handsome in his tuxedo but anxious. She didn't speak. She handed him the envelope of photos and messages. His face changed with each image. Confusion, shock, horror, betrayal. His hands shook. "This can't be real," he whispered. "It is. I found it this morning." He was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said, and walked back toward the venue. Charlotte followed. Inside, guests were laughing, sipping champagne, and waiting. Victoria stood at the altar, radiant. When she saw Dylan, she smiled. He walked to the center aisle. His voice cut through the room. "There won't be a wedding." Gasps. Victoria blinked. "What? Are you serious? I know about you and Mark." More gasps. Murmurs. Whispers. Victoria tried to deny it, claimed someone was lying. But Dylan held up the photos. "I saw it all. Read it all. There's nothing left to say." She turned to Charlotte, venom in her eyes. "You did this. You've always hated me." "No," Charlotte said. "I just love my brother." Victoria tried to slap her, but Dylan stopped her. "Go," he said. She stormed out. Guests sat in stunned silence. Dylan collapsed on a pew. "What now?" he whispered. Charlotte sat beside him. "Now you breathe. Then you start again." The next morning arrived with a strange kind of stillness that didn't match the usual hum of the neighborhood. Claire awoke to the sound of her alarm but lingered in bed, her eyes tracing the patterns of dust motes floating in the sunbeam that sliced through her curtains. The previous night's discovery had burrowed itself so deeply into her thoughts that she'd barely slept. There was a war between what she saw and what she wanted to believe, and that conflict had taken over her entire body like a fever. As she made her way downstairs, Jason had already left for work. His side of the bed, cold and undisturbed. A note was left on the kitchen counter, just a casual reminder that he had an early meeting. Claire stared at the handwriting, comparing it to the Jason she had loved, the one who had once written her heartfelt letters during their early days, and felt a chill crawl up her spine. It wasn't just the cameras or the basement anymore. Something else had changed in him: his energy, his presence, his warmth. It was like living with a perfect stranger who wore her husband's face, determined to find clarity. Claire returned to the garage. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the door and stepped inside, shutting it quietly behind her. She noticed the boxes Jason had shifted were now stacked differently, as if someone had come and tried to cover something again. She crouched and carefully removed them. The wall behind them seemed freshly painted, slightly glossier than the surrounding areas. Her instinct screamed. She grabbed a flathead screwdriver from the tool rack and started tapping lightly along the wall, listening for hollow sounds. After a few moments, one area gave a faint echo. Her pulse quickened. She pried the corner gently until a panel popped open, revealing a hidden recess behind the drywall. Inside, there were photographs, hundreds of them. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Images of herself, of Jason, of their neighbors, but also of people she didn't recognize. Some photos were marked with red X's. Others had dates written on the back. There were surveillance shots. Claire walking to the grocery store, Jason at work, a teenage girl sitting at a park bench alone. She found a black binder labeled Phase 2 with no other identifying marks. She flipped it open and saw floor plans, blueprints, and detailed profiles of people with dossiers like intelligence files. And in the corner of every page was the same insignia, a triangle within a circle. Claire felt her knees buckle. She shoved everything back into the recess, resealed the panel, and fled upstairs. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from her sister. "Emily, lunch still on?" Claire responded yes, needing the normalcy of her sister's presence, if only to keep from spiraling. When she met Emily at the cafe, she fought the urge to unload everything but managed to keep the conversation light. Still, Emily noticed something was off. "You look like you haven't slept in days. Is Jason okay? Are you okay?" Claire managed a weak smile. "We're fine. Just adjusting to him being back, you know." Emily nodded but didn't look convinced. After lunch, Claire hugged her tightly and whispered, "Thank you for always being here." She returned home with a plan. She would confront Jason, not with accusations but with questions. If he were truly her husband, he would answer honestly. If he wasn't, she would know. That evening, when Jason came home, she greeted him warmly. They ate dinner quietly. Claire watched him closely. The way he chewed, the way he drank his water, the way he avoided eye contact. When the meal ended, she leaned in. "Jason, where were we the night before you deployed?" He looked up. His expression faltered for a split second before he smiled. "You mean that little Italian place by the river? The one with the garlic knots you love?" Claire's blood ran cold. They had never been to any Italian place before his deployment. That night, they had stayed home and danced to an old playlist in the living room. Her voice cracked. "What was the name of the song we danced to that night?" Jason's smile froze. He blinked. "You're testing me now?" Claire stood. "Answer the question." Jason's jaw tightened. "Claire, you're being paranoid." She moved toward the door, heart racing. Jason didn't follow her. He simply sat there, watching, unmoving, his eyes unreadable. She slept in the guest room that night with the door locked. The next morning, she found the lock broken and her door ajar. The police were called. An officer came to take her statement, but when she explained what she had found in the garage, they found nothing. The drywall was intact. The panel is gone. The photos vanished. The binder is missing. Claire felt gaslighted, manipulated, and terrified. She began staying with Emily during the days and returned only when Jason was not around. Then one night, she received a parcel with no return address. Inside was a flash drive labeled "Claire the Truth." She inserted it into her laptop. With trembling hands, a video file began to play. Grainy footage. A man is being operated on. Facial reconstruction. Voice training. Then a voiceover that sounded eerily like Jason saying, "Mission parameters accepted. Objective. Integration." Claire shut the laptop, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She was part of something far beyond anything she had imagined. Her husband was either gone or never really there to begin with. The last frame of the video showed a timestamp set for tomorrow at midnight. And beneath it, the words, "Phase 3 begins." Jason stood frozen outside the garage, the sound of his breathing louder than anything else. Inside, Evelyn was slumped against the wall, her eyes swollen from tears, the dim light making her look ghostly. The mechanic, Victor, lay unconscious beside a toolbox, blood smeared across the floor. Jason's world reeled, not because of the violence, but because Evelyn wasn't the woman he thought she was. She had secrets, heavy ones. He stepped forward, heart pounding, unsure whether to speak or run. Evelyn turned slowly and locked eyes with him. There was no fear in her gaze, only exhaustion and something darker, resignation. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, voice hoarse. Jason ignored the warning. He knelt beside her. "What happened here, Evelyn? What did you do?" She shook her head, then looked down at Victor. "He tried to tell you. He warned you not to get close to me. I knew this would happen. I should have disappeared before you got involved." Jason was silent. He had questions hundreds, but he knew they had no time. He pulled her up gently. We need to leave. Now. They exited the garage quickly, slipping into the night like ghosts. Once in his car, Jason started driving. Nowhere specific. Just away. Evelyn stared out the window as if trying to remember something buried deep. He was my brother, she said finally. Victor, we were born into this mess. Our parents ran a smuggling ring using auto parts as cover. When they were caught, Victor and I were taken in by two different families. I was 6. He was 9. We never saw each other again until last year. He found me, said I owed him my life. Jason gripped the steering wheel tightly. So all this, the threats, the shadows following us, the nightmares, it's from your past. She nodded. Victor wanted out of the criminal web, but his past wouldn't let him go. When he learned that I was dating someone normal, someone good, he panicked. He thought I'd tell you everything. He tried to scare you away, thinking it would protect both of us. Jason pulled into a secluded spot in the forest, shut off the engine, and turned to her. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because I wanted to believe I could have a normal life. That maybe, just maybe, someone could love me without knowing the broken pieces. Tears welled in her eyes. But Jason didn't look away. He reached over, took her hand. You're not broken. You've survived. There's a difference. Suddenly, a bright light flashed behind them. Jason ducked instinctively. A black SUV rolled to a slow stop behind their car. Evelyn's face turned pale. They found us. Jason jumped out and opened the trunk, pulling out an emergency flare and a tire iron, the only weapons he had. Evelyn remained in the car, her phone gripped tightly in her hand. 3 men exited the SUV. They didn't speak, just advanced. Get in the car and lock it, Jason told her. Call the police. Send them our location. She hesitated. Jason. No, do it now, he growled, already stepping between her and the oncoming figures. The leader of the trio was tall and scarred, his voice oily. You should have stayed out of this, Mr. Hartwell. Jason raised a tire iron. She's not going with you, the man smirked. We'll see. What followed wasn't cinematic. It was raw, brutal, and chaotic. Jason took one down with a swing to the knee, and another tackled him into the dirt. Fists flew. Blood sprayed. Evelyn screamed from inside the locked car. Sirens howled in the distance, just as Jason felt the breath knocked from his lungs and the tire iron ripped from his hands. Headlights blinded them all. 2 patrol cars skidded into the clearing. Officers poured out with guns drawn. Drop your weapons. Hands in the air. The attackers froze, then surrendered one by one. Jason collapsed, face bruised, body shaking. Evelyn rushed out, falling to her knees beside him. You're safe now. It's over. But Jason's eyes, bloodshot and dazed, fixed on her. It's not over. Not until you tell them everything. Days passed in a blur. Evelyn gave her statement to the police. Her real name was revealed Eva Morales, a woman whose past had been hidden under layers of forged records. Her testimony unraveled a web of crimes that stretched back decades. She and Jason were placed under protective watch while the investigation unfolded. They stayed at a safe house near the coast. The silence between them was not of distance, but of healing. One evening, Jason stood on the balcony watching the ocean. Evelyn joined him. I ruined your life, she said softly. He turned. No, you gave me the truth. That's more than most people ever offer. She looked away. You don't owe me anything. If you want to leave after the trial, I'll understand. Jason stepped closer. I don't want to leave. Not if it means losing you. She blinked, startled. After everything? Even knowing what I was dragged into? He nodded. I love the woman you are, not the secrets you buried. And I think you're finally free of them. Tears ran down her cheeks as he pulled her into an embrace. Months later, the case closed. Evelyn's cooperation led to multiple arrests. She was granted full immunity. Jason's wounds had healed, but the scars, emotional and physical, remained. As reminders, they didn't return to the old garage. Instead, they opened a new one together in a different town. The sign outside read, Redemption Motors, and every time Evelyn looked at Jason across the shop floor, She remembered that even the darkest pasts could lead to something pure. But one evening, just as they were locking up, a black envelope appeared under the door. No name, no return address. Jason picked it up, felt the weight of it. He opened it. Slowly, inside was a single photo of Evelyn, taken 2 days ago, from across the street. He turned to her. We're not done yet. The shadows hadn't finished speaking. Moral of the story: the garage secret in a world filled with appearances, secrets, and betrayals. The garage secret reminds us that truth, no matter how deeply buried, always demands to be uncovered. Every lie we tell, every loyalty we betray, and every pain we hide leaves a footprint, sometimes in the form of silence, in blood, but always waiting to be found. What should we learn? Trust should be earned, not assumed. The story teaches us to observe carefully who we allow into our inner world. Love can blind us to red flags, but instincts often speak where words fail.